So, welcome back to the Beast Game Podcast, and this is going to be a review for the movie that has taken the internet by storm, which is Bird Box, and is directed by Susan Bier. The writers are Eric Hessender, based off a novel, which I didn't realize, by Josh Melvern. Stars Sandra Bullock, Trevante Rhodes, and John Malkovich. The synopsis is, 5 years after the ominous, unseen presence, a mother and her two children make a desperate bid to reach safety. The man that is the new face of horror.
Oh, man.
He'll watch the worst horror movies. I've been there for some of that. But James.
Yes.
What is your view on the suspense thriller movie?
This was perhaps the most overhyped movie. It was a basic movie. It was basic. It was so basic. We've seen it before. I'm not saying the movie's bad. I don't think it's bad, but there's a lot of things that they could have done better. But for the hype that it received, you would have thought this thing was like The Exorcist or something.
Yes.
Jeez, this movie was not that great. Nothing but a rehash of The Mist, Don't Breathe, The Happening, A Quiet Place, and The Crazies.
And it also just reminded me of some Steven Spielberg movie or book that Steven Spielberg didn't want his name attached to it for whatever reason.
We already listed all the movies that this is basically, these movies just a modern version. Is the movie bad? No. Is it good? No. It's a movie. It was okay. It could have been a lot better. To me, it was a lot of lazy writing, a lot of plot holes, things that weren't explained. Wasn't enjoyable. I watched it. It wasn't bad. This movie did not deserve the hype. I don't know who started this hype train for this movie.
The internet.
Whoever it was needs to really sit down and contemplate life choices, because this was not worthy of the hype at all.
It's Netflix's viral marketing. That's what it was. But Matt, what is your view on Bird Box?
Very average movie. I agree with everything that James said. I think anytime that you leave the movie and you're still trying to figure out what in the world happened, you feel shortchanged, and I did when I watched the movie. Acting, I didn't think was the greatest. The kids were doing predictable things that we would think that kids would do. I didn't really enjoy this movie at all, and I guess whoever did the hype train on this, they deserve a raise, because guess what? They did what they wanted to do, which was generate hype for a movie that was average.
Exactly. I mean, shit, I need them on my team. Fuck that shit.
All right.
Yeah,
so, well, for me, needless to say that I watched this movie because of you guys. And again, I had heard about the movie. And one of Netflix's problems is that they put out so much content now that it's hard to know what's good and what's not when things release. So when I watched this movie, I was interested for the first 10 minutes. So that's where Sandra Bullock realizes that she's pregnant. She's going to the hospital, and then all the crazy stuff starts happening. Just like if it was a alien invasion movie, that's kind of how it starts off. That part was good. The part that they get to the house was okay. But then it starts turning into The Purge, Anarchy, Walking Dead, World War Z, The Ring, and also Final Destination.
A little of everything.
Main problem with this is the direction. The direction in this movie is very poor because things are telegraphed. I'm not sure why. And the way that it's done, you already know what's going to happen. So
It's very predictable.
At one point, there's another pregnant woman that joins the group, and all of a sudden, they're both pregnant and having babies at the same time, at the same moment.
Right.
Or there's somebody else that comes into the house that they don't trust necessarily, and you know where this is going. So there's really not anything that they do differently. As James said, this is not a bad movie. I wasn't angry after I watched this. I was like, okay, let me just go on my life. Lore of this movie, hey, well, we created memes for this, or there's news articles for this, just because the world has nothing else to talk about right now other than Bird Box. Something is wrong with you, because this movie is not good. Not good in the sense
Not
that
worthy. It's not worthy of it.
it's not a great movie. I mean, without mentioning A Quiet Place. A Quiet Place was much more suspenseful. There's very little suspense in this movie. And I understand the need not to explain what was happening. I'm 100% fine with that. This is just nothing but people either sitting around in the house and nothing happening. When they go outside, really nothing is happening. I'm just really waiting to get to the end of the movie to figure out why was I sitting here the whole time. So, comments.
No, I agree with you. This movie, to me, was just basically a character progression movie. It was all character-based. It was, I don't know, man. Like I said, the movie wasn't bad. It just wasn't that great. And I agree with you with the direction. It was too predictable. And that's one thing that I've always talked about. I watch so many movies, especially movies of this genre, to the point that everything is predictable. And, of course, there had to be one asshole character.
Yeah.
And that was John Malkovich. But the thing is, he was the one making the most sense. I mean, even though some of his shit was asshole, it was very asshole-ish. But in a situation like that, I wouldn't let that dude in my house either. I'm like, we don't know what's going on. We don't know if it's airborne. We don't know what's going on. So why we let this other person in the house? To be honest with you, I wouldn't even let Sandra Bullock in the damn house when I saw her ass.
Yeah. And Matt, as someone that watches a lot of Walking Dead, do you see any parallels with that?
They follow the same formula where you have someone, like James said, who's a straight asshole, someone who's very kind-hearted and very gullible, who ends up screwing the whole team. Same formula that they had in The Walking Dead. Except The Walking Dead, you actually understood what was happening with the bad guys and how they evolved. This one, I had no clue.
This just reminded me of a Stephen King book. I felt like this was just a made-for-TV movie, and I can't remember which one it was. I'm like, is it The Stand?
The Stand.
Yeah.
I think it was The Stand, yeah.
It just reminded me of that. And
it's basically the end of the world. Everybody's going apeshit crazy. No, you know what? I could see that too. And one thing I didn't like, a lot of the relationship was forced. Sandra Bullock's character and what's his name, Trevante Harris?
Yeah, Trevante Rhodes.
Rhodes, okay. That guy.
50 Cent.
To me, it just seems that they forced a relationship just to have one. There was no need for them to be in an intimate relationship.
Yeah, he comes through straight up. All right, well, I'll see where this is going. Because
right. Especially like the interaction in the supermarket.
Yeah.
That just was icing on the cake. Like, yeah, they fucking.
Hot babysitter.
Yeah, and another thing is just that obviously I'm not a fan of flashbacks, and there's a lot of that in this one. I wasn't annoyed by it, but
yeah, I thought about you too when I was like, Bird's gonna shit himself when he sees this.
But this is just another case of we got the rights to the book, we made it into a movie. That's really all it is. There's no other point for this movie to even be hyped up the way that it is when there was better movies that came out this year than this. Congratulations, Netflix. People watch the movie.
You suckered us in. But like I said, the movie wasn't bad, but it was not great and definitely not deserving of the hype train.
I will say it was shot well. There were some okay acting moments. Like Little Rel was okay. He was a little out of place in this movie.
Yeah.
But
he was an exposition character, the one that had to explain.
Yeah, they go off kind of a comedic route when he starts explaining all that stuff.
They should have had something else explained. They should have had that old woman explain. Or something like that. Not him. Like you say, it didn't suit him. So, yeah.
So, let's get the scores. James, what would you give Bird Box?
I would give this movie a 6.
Okay.
And the reason why I would give it a 6 is because that this reminded me of like The Happening, things like that. One, it was better than The Happening to me. I hated The Happening. This one, I was more intrigued on what was going on. I was a little bit into it, but at the same time, I still did not see the hype. So like I mentioned before, the movie was not a bad movie, but it wasn't a great movie. It did not deserve the hype. It was watchable. And like Barry also stated, like I did not feel anger after watching this movie like I did with Mother. Okay. And Mother will always be out of my mouth when it comes to bad movies. So it wasn't one of those. But I watched it again. Probably not. If I was to watch it again, I'm bored. Let me just watch it again and see if I missed something. But most likely, no. But I will give this movie a 6.
All right, Matt.
I'd give this movie a 5. Thought it was average at best. They did have some funny scenes in there and some psychological thriller scenes, but other than that, some of the stuff just was unbelievable. I can't see how someone could navigate a forest without falling. being blinded, let alone got up a river. But again, it's a movie. Okay. 5 overall. I just didn't really like this movie. If I have to figure out what is the background behind these enemies, and I still don't know what the heck it is, it didn't do a good job of storytelling for me.
And again, I'm fine with that. I'm fine with a lack of an explanation. What I'm not fine with is telegraphing the whole movie that you meet some character early on, you know what's going to happen to them. Like, that's it. And from the Trevante Rose relationship to the fact that 2 other characters have the babies at the same time, to letting in one character knowing that that character is going to be bad, and then the end of the movie, it just was okay. And I think the only intelligent thing that I felt from this movie was when they decided to use the GPS to get to the grocery store. That made sense.
Yeah, that was smart.
What did not make sense was the fact that apparently if you look at what's going on, you go crazy. And then if you're looking at it through a camera, apparently the same thing happens. Like, what was the explanation behind that?
Yeah.
That you're just looking outside?
I
mean, is that the ring? So, again, this was an average, very, very average movie. At some point, this is when M. Night Shyamalan would just come up with basic crap. This is what this movie is. And that's the Peace Game Podcast.